It was the fall of 2017. I was living alone, deep in a forest that felt older than time itself. My home was a small, isolated mud house miles from any sign of civilization. People often ask why I chose such a solitary life. I used to say it was for peace, but the truth is I was running from a world I no longer understood. Little did I know, I had run straight into something far worse. The forest was always shrouded in a thick, damp mist that clung to the ancient trees like a second skin. It swallowed sound, making the silence feel heavy, suffocating. At night, the only light came from the moon, filtered through the gnarled branches. The single candle I kept on my windowsill. The house itself, it felt less like a structure and more like a living thing. The mud walls were a patchwork of cracks like wrinkles on old skin. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I'd swear I could see them shift, a slow, subtle pulse as if the house was breathing around me. It started with the sounds, a soft scratching from within the walls just at the edge of hearing. I told myself it was rats or the house settling. Then came the whispers, faint and dry, like dead leaves skittering across a stone floor. They seemed to ride the wind that snaked through the cracks in the walls, carrying words I couldn't quite understand, but whose intent I felt in my bones. It was a cold, ancient malice. I tried to ignore it. I spent my days chopping wood, gathering water, anything to keep my mind occupied. But the feeling of being watched was constant. From the tree line, I'd catch glimpses of movement, tall, impossibly thin silhouettes that would vanish the moment I focused on them. At night, things grew bolder. I'd be reading by candlelight, and in the reflection of the window pane, I'd see a pale, gaunt face looking in, its eyes dark and empty. I'd whip around, my heart pounding, but there would be nothing there but the oppressive darkness of the woods. The forest was closing in. One night, a storm rolled in, the kind that tears the sky open. Thunder shook the very foundations of the little mud house. Rain lashed against the walls, and with every flash of lightning, the shadows in my room would dance and contort into horrifying shapes. The scratching from the walls grew louder, frantic, joined by a low, guttural moan that seemed to come from the earth beneath me. I huddled in the center of the room, my candle flickering wildly, praying for sunrise. That's when I saw it. The largest crack in the wall, the one that ran from floor to ceiling, began to widen. A fine dust of dried mud trickled down. The scratching stopped, the moaning stopped, and absolute silence fell. Even the storm outside seemed to hold its breath. Slowly, agonizingly, the mud pulled apart, and from the darkness within the wall, an eye opened. It wasn't human. It was ancient, yellow, with a slit-like pupil that fixed on me with an intelligent, hungry gaze. The house wasn't just a house. It was a shell. I was trapped inside with whatever was waking up. I don't remember how I escaped. The next thing I knew, it was dawn, and I was running, barefoot and bleeding, through the misty woods. I never looked back. I've tried to rebuild my life, to forget the mud house and the thing that lived inside its walls. I tell myself it was a nightmare, a product of isolation and fear. But then, last week, a package arrived at my door. There was no return address. Inside, nestled in a small box, was a single piece of dried, cracked mud. As I held it, a faint, dry whisper echoed in my ear, a sound I had prayed I'd never hear again. It knows where I am, and I don't think it's done with me. Thanks for listening. If you find yourself drawn to the quiet places of the world, be careful. You never know what might be waiting for you in the silence. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories from the edge of reality.